The ancient Japanese town, lost among the mountains, has always been surrounded by a magical atmosphere. On nights when the stars shone particularly brightly, they seemed to whisper their secrets to those willing to listen. Here lived Dasha, a girl with long, silky hair and eyes like the summer sky. Dasha often spent evenings on the hill near the lake, where she painted pictures of the starry sky. This place was her favorite refuge, where she found peace. She felt that the stars were hiding something more than just light, but what exactly she didn't know. Once, while she was painting, a gust of wind snatched the drawing from her hands and carried it down the hill. Dasha ran after him, but stopped when she saw that an unfamiliar boy with dark hair and a warm but slightly sad look picked up the drawing. "Is this yours?" he asked, holding the drawing in his hands. Dasha cautiously nodded, trying to look at the stranger. His appearance was both mysterious and kind. She reached out to take the drawing, but the boy stared at it. "It's beautiful," he said, returning the drawing. "You draw the night sky as if you know its secrets." Dasha smiled awkwardly. They talked, and the boy called himself Max. He said that he grew up in this town but lived in Tokyo for many years. Recently, he decided to return to find what he had lost. Their conversation lasted a long time. Max shared that his heart had always been drawn to this place, although he didn't know why. Dasha said that her drawings are an attempt to understand what exactly she is looking for in the stars. They sat together watching the stars begin to light up the sky. Max felt that his anxiety began to disappear, and Dasha realized that for the first time in a long time, she was not alone. Their meeting was the first step to something bigger than they could have imagined. After that meeting on the hill, Max and Dasha began to see each other more often. They began to spend evenings together, sitting under the starry sky and talking about life, dreams, and what left their hearts lonely. Max felt that with Dasha, his soul was finding the peace it so lacked. Once, during another meeting, Max brought a sketchbook with him. He showed Dasha his works that he created in Tokyo. Deep emotions were felt in each picture. They conveyed not only the beauty of the city, but also the sense of loss that he carried within himself. "You're really talented," said Dasha, flipping through the album. "There are so many feelings in your works. I see that you paint not only what you see, but also what you feel." Max smiled, a little embarrassed. He suggested that she draw something together. They created a picture where the starry sky was combined with human figures looking up. This was their first joint work. Over time, Max began to share his past with Dasha. He said that his childhood was difficult. The loss of his parents forced him to grow up early. Tokyo became his refuge, but he never found true peace. Returning to the town became for him an attempt to find himself. "And you, why do you always draw stars?" he asked one evening. Dasha thought. She said that her parents always told her, "The stars know all the secrets." Since childhood, she liked to watch them, as if hoping to find answers to her questions. "Maybe we're both looking for something under these stars," Max said quietly. Their friendship became deeper. They not only shared their thoughts, but also began to inspire each other to move forward. But in the hearts of both, something more than just friendship was already being born. One evening, when the stars were shining particularly brightly, Max noticed that Dasha was constantly wearing an ancient locket around her neck. It was made of fine silver and had an engraved star design. He was interested in why this subject was so important to her. "What kind of medallion is this?" he asked, gently touching the pendant. Dasha smiled and, hesitating a little, answered, "This is a family heirloom. Grandma said it belonged to our ancestors. There is a note inside, but I have only opened it a few times in my life." Max asked to show what was written inside. Dasha carefully opened the locket, and there was a small piece of old paper with the inscription, "Your soul will find its mate under the starry sky." Max shuddered when he saw this inscription. His eyes filled with surprise, and he admitted, "It's strange, but my mother had a similar locket. I remember there was an inscription there too, but I was too young to read it. After her death, the locket disappeared." This information shocked Dasha. She couldn't believe that something so precious could bind their families together. They began to wonder if it was just a coincidence or if fate really played an important role in their lives. Dasha and Max decided to find out more about the origin of the locket. They began looking for old family records and questioning the town's elderly residents. The more they learned, the more mysteries appeared. One day, Max remembered that in the old temple on the hill, he saw something like a wall with images of stars. They decided to go there together to find more answers. Dasha and Max went to the old temple on the hill. This place has always been surrounded by mysticism because many believed that it had a connection with the stars. The temple had been abandoned many years ago, but its walls held stories that could shed light on their questions. Inside the temple, they saw exquisite carvings on the walls. Images of stars, constellations, and people looking at the sky formed mysterious patterns. In the center of one of the walls was carved a large star, in the center of which a small, round recess was visible. "That must mean something," Max said, studying the carvings carefully. "Maybe this place has something to do with your medallion." Dasha took out the locket and tried to insert it into the notch. A strange thing happened. The wall began to tremble, and suddenly a secret niche opened before them. Inside were ancient records and another medallion, similar to Dashin. His appearance was refined, but he seemed older. The records had text written in an ancient style. Max read aloud. "3 medallions will connect hearts and reveal the truth. Under the starry sky, the destinies of those who seek the light will unite." Dasha and Max were shocked. It turns out that their medallion was not the only one. Now they knew they had to find the third locket to uncover the truth their families had been hiding. They felt that their lives were intertwined not by chance. Max put the medallion he found in his pocket and said, "We have to find out where the third one is. Without it, we will not understand exactly what this prophecy means." Dasha agreed. She felt that their lives would change forever when they discovered this secret. But what exactly awaited them ahead, they could not yet imagine. After returning from the temple, Dasha and Max began to consider where to look for the third locket. The records they found hinted at a location associated with the families, but didn't provide any concrete clues. They had to return to the archives of the town to find at least some traces of the past. They went to the local library, where old family documents and maps were stored. Dasha found a record that pointed to a joint estate that once belonged to their families. But this estate was abandoned long ago, and almost everyone forgot about it. "This may be our only clue," said Dasha, holding a yellowed map in her hands. "The estate is located in the mountains, a few kilometers from here." The next morning, they set out for the indicated place. The road was long and difficult. Overgrown paths and an abandoned garden looked as if no human foot had set foot here for decades. At last, they saw an old house, dilapidated but still grand. It was dark and cold inside. Max illuminated the room with a flashlight and saw faded portraits on the walls. One of them had 2 people holding medallions similar to the ones they had found. The picture seemed to indicate a certain part of the room. "Look, there's this corner," Max said, pointing to a pointer in the corner of the portrait. They came closer and saw an old chest that was hidden behind the shelves. Inside the chest was a third medallion. It was larger than the previous ones and had an inscription they had not seen before: "Starlight will reveal the truth only in unity." Along with the locket were notes confirming that their families had worked together to create an art school, but the secret had torn them apart. Dasha and Max realized that now in their hands is the key to unifying not only the medallions, but also the history of their families. However, they also sensed that there was more to come. After finding the third locket, Dasha and Max felt that their journey to the truth was approaching its climax. All 3 medallions shared a connection to the stars, but their purpose remained a mystery. They decided to return to the temple on the hill, because that is where it all began. The next evening, when the sky was clear, they set out for the temple. Dasha was holding her locket. Max found 2. They walked the path in silence, realizing that this moment could change not only their lives, but also the history of their families. As they entered the temple, the light of the moon filtered through the narrow windows, illuminating the wall with the image of a large star. Dasha and Max brought the medallions to the recess where they had to go. One by one, the medallions took their places. At that moment, the wall began to glow with a golden light. Suddenly, an inscription appeared that was not there before. Love, trust, and light will open the way. Uniting will restore harmony. The light spread throughout the temple, forming a glowing constellation directly above them. A crystal appeared in the center of the room, resembling a living light. It radiated warmth and peace, as if the very soul of their families was hidden in it. "It's incredible," Dasha whispered, watching the crystal pulsate. "As if he came alive." Max gently touched the crystal, and a flood of images flashed through their minds. They saw how their families worked together, how they created an art school, and how they were torn apart by the tragedy of deception. But the crystal also showed that the real reason for the quarrel was fear and mistrust, not real guilt. "We have to finish what they couldn't," Max said, looking at Dasha. "This is not only about us. This is about everyone who believes in the power of unity." Dasha nodded. They felt that this crystal was not just an artifact. It is a symbol of reconciliation that must be preserved and passed on to future generations. Dasha and Max realized that the found crystal is the key not only to their own path, but also to the unification of their families. They decided it was time to tell this story to others. Together, they gathered the elders of the town to share their discoveries and reveal the power hidden in the lockets and crystal. The evening of the meeting has come. Many people gathered on the hill near the temple. There were old friends of their families, students at the school, as well as residents who remembered old rumors of conflict between the families. The atmosphere was tense, but everyone expected to hear the truth. Dasha spoke first. She talked about how their families had once worked together to create an art school, and how they had lost that connection because of a misunderstanding. She showed the lockets, explaining that they symbolize love, trust, and harmony. "We have found what our ancestors lost," she said, holding the crystal in her hands. "This crystal is not just an artifact. It is a symbol that even the biggest wounds can be healed if there is a desire to understand each other." Max added that the current generation can complete what their ancestors failed to do. He proposed to restore the old art school, joining the efforts of 2 families and residents of the town. Dasha and Max's words moved those present. People who lived for years with memories of old conflict saw hope in them. The elders agreed that it was time to leave the past behind and build a new future. When everyone entered the temple together, Max and Dasha placed the crystal in the center of the altar. The temple shone with a soft light, and a new inscription appeared on the walls. "The light that unites is love and forgiveness. The truth of the stars is always revealed to those who are willing to see it with their hearts." This moment was the beginning of a new stage in the life of the town. People felt part of something bigger again, and the temple became a place where everyone could find peace and inspiration. After the crystal was installed in the temple, Dasha and Max decided to fulfill their promise to restore the art school that their ancestors had once created. This school was to become not just a place of learning, but a symbol of unity and inspiration for all who were looking for their way. Residents of the town willingly supported this initiative. Older people shared their memories of school, showed old sketches and drawings that were preserved in families. Inspired by the story of the medallions and the crystal, the youth helped clean up the grounds and restore the building. The school project brought everyone together. Max took it upon himself to organize the restoration, using his knowledge of architecture which he had acquired in Tokyo. Dasha was responsible for the artistic design. Each wall had to tell the story of the stars that were their guide. In the central square of the school, they decided to install a copy of the crystal so that it would become a symbol of the new era. A garden of cherry blossoms was planted around it, which were supposed to remind us of the beauty of harmony and peace. While working, Dasha and Max noticed their hearts overflowing with pride. They understood that they were not only fulfilling the will of their ancestors, but also creating something real for future generations. Their bond grew stronger every day. "I feel as if we are building a bridge between the past and the future," said Dasha one evening as they sat on the hill and looked at the stars. "And this bridge won't collapse as long as we're together," Max replied, hugging her. A few months later, the school was ready. The whole town gathered for the opening. The students presented their first works, and Dasha and Max presented a joint painting depicting their path. Stars, medallions, and a temple illuminated by the light of a crystal. The restoration of the art school became a real symbol of new life for the town. She quickly gained popularity, and her story was talked about outside the region. Journalists, artists, and even ordinary travelers came to see this place inspired by the stars. One day, Dasha received an invitation to hold an exhibition in Tokyo. This event was not only an opportunity to tell the world the story of the school and the temple, but also a chance to share the beauty that they created with Max. Dasha and Max left for the capital, taking with them the best works of the students and their own paintings that reflected their path. The main painting of the exhibition depicted the temple in the light of stars and the glow of a crystal. It was called Union Under the Sky. The exhibition was a huge success. People were amazed not only by the beauty of the works, but also by the history behind them. They saw in the paintings messages of love, trust, and harmony, which were able to overcome any conflicts. During the exhibition, Dasha was approached by a representative of a large international art fund. He offered to support the school by expanding its opportunities and making it accessible to talented children from all over the world. "You created more than just a school," he said. "You have created a symbol that can inspire many people. We want to help you take this message further." Returning to the town, Dasha and Max shared this news with the residents. Everyone was excited, because this meant that their small town would become a center of international art. It was a new step in their journey, but they knew that the true inspiration remained in their heart, where the stars always shine. With the support of the International Fund, the art school began to flourish even more. Talented children from all over the world came to the town to learn from Dasha and Max. Each of them brought with them new ideas and inspiration, turning the school into a real center of creativity. One day, during an open lesson on the hill, Ayako, daughter of Dasha and Max, uttered the words that became the school's new motto. "We are all stars. We shine in our own way, but together we create a constellation that guides others." These words deeply affected everyone. They became a reflection of what the school taught. Each person is unique, but true strength lies in unity. One evening, Dasha and Max, sitting on a hill, noticed that the stars in the sky began to twinkle in a special way. Their light seemed brighter, and their positions formed new patterns. It was a sign they could not ignore. "Maybe the stars want to tell us something," Dasha said quietly, squeezing Max's hand. "Or they remind us that our journey is not yet over," answered Max. They decided to spend the night in the temple, watching the sky. They took their records, paintings, and crystal with them. As they placed the crystal in the center of the temple, its glow began to pulsate, and the stars in the sky changed, forming a new constellation that looked like a tree with branches that stretched to infinity. It was a new message. Their mission was not only to create art, but also to leave a legacy that would inspire future generations. They realized that school is just the beginning. They must teach others to see the connection between stars and people. The star tree that Dasha and Max saw became a symbol of a new beginning for them. They realized that their path now lies in imparting knowledge and inspiration to people who have never believed in their power before. They decided to create a project that would unite creative people from different parts of the world. Together with Ayako, they organized the Constellation of Dreams program. It was a series of workshops, exhibitions, and events that helped people discover their talents. The program covered not only painting, but also music, literature, photography, everything that helped to express oneself. The first event took place in their town, in the temple where their story once began. People from different countries came to see the place where the stars whisper their stories. The temple shone not only from the crystal, but also from the energy brought by the new members. Dasha made a speech. "We all carry the light of the stars. Sometimes it is hidden, but together we can help each other find it. This place reminds us that creativity is a connection that unites time, space, and hearts." The program was a huge success. It even attracted the attention of scientists and researchers who began to study the connection between the crystal, the temple, and the stars. They suggested that this phenomenon has a deeper meaning than just art. Dasha and Max realized that Dream Constellation was their way to leave a mark on the world. They created a network of art schools and centers that became a source of inspiration for people all over the world. Their small town has become a symbol of dreams and the light that leads to change. The network of constellation of dreams, art schools, and programs grew like the branches of the same star tree. People from different countries joined the initiative, sharing their experience, knowledge, and inspiration. In every corner of the world where these schools appeared, Dasha and Max left a piece of the light of their small town. One day, Dasha received a letter from a young artist from Europe. The girl wrote that since childhood she was afraid to show her works, but after participating in the constellation of dreams, she found confidence and now plans to open her own studio. The letter moved Dasha to tears. "Max, we really make a difference in people's lives," she said, reading the letter. "This is exactly what I always dreamed of doing." "And you do," answered Max. "You create a world in which every star can shine brighter." Ayako, who has already grown up and become a recognized artist, also continued the work of her parents. She created a series of paintings called The Light That Unites. They depicted different people who, despite their differences, found a common language through creativity. These paintings became a symbol of the unity that their family preached. Dasha and Max decided that it was time to take another important step. They invited representatives of all schools associated with the constellation of dreams to a big celebration in their town. It was supposed to be a meeting under the stars, where everyone could tell their story, share ideas, and feel the bond that unites them. That night, when people from all over the world gathered on the hill near the temple, Dasha and Max realized how big their constellation had become. The starry sky that had witnessed their first meeting now shone for the hundreds of people who became part of their story. The night of the holiday on the hill was the culmination of everything that Dasha and Max had been striving for. People from all over the world gathered under the stars to share their stories and dreams. The crystal in the temple shone, emitting a warm light that united everyone present, creating a sense of harmony. Dasha held Max's hand as she stood on the hill and watched as their little town filled with life and joy. "Just look, Max," she said, squeezing his hand. "It became more than I could have imagined." "It's become bigger than any of us could have imagined," Max replied, "but it all started with one look at the stars." At dawn, when the guests began to return to their homes, Ayako approached her parents. Her eyes shone with enthusiasm and determination. "Mom, Dad, I want to continue this business. I want this light to live long after us." Dasha smiled, hugging her daughter. "We always knew you'd do it better than us. Max and I only laid the foundation, and you will turn it into a real constellation." A few weeks after the holiday, the temple became a place called the Heart of the Constellation. People came here to find inspiration, to look at the stars, and to find peace. The crystal that remained in the temple continued to emit light that helped people feel connected to each other. One evening, when Dasha and Max were sitting on the hill again, they realized that they had accomplished their mission. Their lives were filled with love, dreams, and the light they left behind. "The stars always showed us the way," Dasha said quietly, "and now we have become part of this light." Max smiled as he looked up at the sky. "And we will always be here under these stars for those who are looking for their way." The legend of Dasha and Max lived in their town for many more generations. Their story was transmitted as a whisper of the stars, inspiring people to search for their light. Their temple, school, and crystal became symbols that love, creativity, and unity will always find a way, even through time. The stars continued to shine, whispering new stories to those who looked at them with faith. And among them, there were always two that shone brighter than the others. They were Dasha and Max, souls who became part of the infinite light of the universe.